Hey there, fellow garden enthusiasts. I know a lot of you out there want to take your bush and hedge trimming skills up a notch.
To the next level.
Exactly. You're not just looking for basic advice, right?
No way.
You want those pro secrets
Yeah, those techniques.
that'll have your neighbors totally jealous.
Green with envy for sure.
And guess what? We've got you covered.
You know, it's actually pretty funny.
What is?
The source material for this deep dive is like a sneak peek into a potential podcast episode.
Oh, wow. So we're analyzing a podcast before it even exists.
Exactly. It's all about bush and hedge trimming.
Talk about meta, right? But hey, who wouldn't want to peek into the future of landscaping? So let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
What are some of the key things this potential podcast wants to teach us?
Well, it all starts with the equipment.
Okay.
And I know what you're thinking.
What's that?
Pruning shears. Got it.
Yep.
Let's move on.
Yeah, I think we all know about those.
But trust me, there's more to it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Yeah.
What kind of pruning sheer wisdom awaits?
Well, for starters, did you know there are actually different types of pruning shears?
Really?
Yeah, like bypass shears, those are the ones that kind of work like scissors.
Oh?
Two blades slicing past each other, perfect for clean, precise cuts on smaller branches.
Makes sense.
But when you've got a thicker branch...
Like on a lilac bush.
Exactly! You'll want to grab some anvil shears for those.
Anvil shears. Now those sound serious. Tell me more. I'm all about the right tool for the job.
Well, think of anvil shears as your heavy-duty option.
Okay.
Instead of slicing, they've got one sharp blade that comes down on a flat surface.
It's like a tiny guillotine for your branches.
Exactly. And they're great for those thicker branches that bypass shears would struggle with.
So it's all about matching the shear to the branch size.
You got it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I look at a bush and I kind of freeze up.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Like I'm so scared of making the wrong cut. Is there a way to avoid those oops moments?
Absolutely. And this is where the source material gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
It emphasizes that understanding your plants is crucial.
That makes sense.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach,
Right.
Different plants, different needs, different growth habits.
You know what? I have to admit, I'm guilty of just going in and trimming without much thought.
Happens to the best of us.
It's like I assume all bushes want to be shaped the same.
I think that's a common misconception.
Is it?
It's like assuming all haircuts are the same. You wouldn't give a buzz cut to someone who wants long, flowing locks, would you?
Definitely not. Okay, so understanding the plant is key, but how do we actually apply that knowledge when we're out there with our pruning shears in hand?
Well, the source material talks about the importance of clean cuts.
Okay.
It's all about technique. Think of the growth node as the plant's knee, like where new branches sprout from.
Gotcha.
A clean cut is cutting just above a growth node at a 45-degree angle.
Okay, 45-degree angle. Got it. But is this clean cut business really that important? I mean, I've been hacking away at my bushes for years, and they seem to be fine.
That's a great question.
Is it?
And honestly, a lot of plants are pretty resilient, but there are a couple reasons why clean cuts are better.
Okay, why is that?
Well, for one, it minimizes stress on the plant. Think of it like surgery. A clean incision heals way faster and better than a jagged wound.
So it's about helping the plant recover quicker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a clean cut also reduces the risk of disease. Those ragged edges you leave when you just hack away, they're like open invitations for disease and pests.
Ew. Okay, I definitely don't want any unwelcome guests in my garden, so clean cuts it is.
Yeah.
But let's talk about tackling a large overgrown bush. Do I just go in and start snipping away randomly?
Our source material actually recommends the small sections technique.
Small sections.
It's like breaking down a big project into manageable chunks.
Okay.
Instead of trying to tackle the entire bush at once, you just divide it into smaller sections.
Okay, that makes sense.
This gives you way more control and precision, and it'll help you avoid taking off more than you wanted to.
Oh, you mean like those moments where you step back and think, oh no, what have I done?
Exactly.
Been there. Not a good feeling. So small sections are key to avoiding garden disasters.
For sure.
But what about hedges? Is it the same approach?
Well, with hedges, the goal is usually to get a consistent shape. You want that crisp, manicured look.
Absolutely. I've seen some hedges that look like they were attacked by a lawnmower with a mind of its own. Yeah. Not exactly what I'm going for.
And this is where the level and string line technique comes in.
Ooh, that sounds fancy. Tell me everything.
So basically, you set up a string line along the hedge.
Okay.
And you use a level to make sure it's perfectly straight.
Got it.
This acts as a visual guide for your trimming, so you get a nice uniform result.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
I always wondered how people got those perfectly straight hedges you see in magazines.
Well, now you know.
I'm starting to feel like I could actually create those magazine-worthy hedges myself.
You totally can.
I like the sound of that.
And again, the small sections approach works great here too.
Right, right.
Focus on one small section at a time, use your string line as a guide, and you'll be amazed at how much easier it is to achieve that crisp look.
All right, so we've got the tools, we've got the techniques,
We're ready to go.
but before we all go out and become Edward Scissorhands of the garden, I think we need to talk about mistakes to avoid.
Great point. No one wants to accidentally give their plants a bad haircut. Right.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad haircuts, I once got a little carried away with my pruning shears and practically scalped a poor, unsuspecting lavender bush.
Oh,
It
no.
was a massacre.
We've all been there.
Have you really?
But it's a good reminder that one of the most common mistakes is overcutting.
It's easy to do, right?
It's tempting to go for a dramatic transformation, but remember, plants are living things.
Right.
Too much cutting stresses them out, and it leaves them vulnerable to disease and pests.
So it's all about finding that balance between shaping and respecting the plant's natural growth.
Exactly. And here's another crucial point from our source material. Tool hygiene.
Okay, I have to confess, I'm not always the best about cleaning my tools. How important is it really? Do I need to disinfect them after every single cut?
That's a good question. And honestly, there's some debate about how often to disinfect.
Yeah, I
Can imagine. Some gardeners are like, gotta clean after every single cut, but others are a bit more relaxed about it.
Right.
But I think the main thing is just to think about potential disease spread.
So maybe a good middle ground is to disinfect more often when I'm working with plants that are prone to diseases, and then relax a bit when I'm trimming healthy, established plants.
That sounds like a great plan. And it all goes back to
What's that?
knowing your plants.
Of course. Okay, so we've talked a lot about what to cut, but is there anything the source material says about what not to cut?
Oh, that's a good point.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't explicitly say, don't cut this, but it kind of hints at what not to cut,
Interesting.
which is equally important.
Yeah, I agree.
Like some plants are really sensitive about having their central leader pruned.
Central leader, what's that?
It's basically the main upright stem.
Oh,
Think of it as the backbone of the plant.
got it.
Pruning that can really mess with the plant's growth habit.
Does it?
Yeah, sometimes it even makes the plant bushier but less vigorous.
So it's like knowing which branches are off limits.
Exactly. Certain branches are sacred.
I like that.
And again, it all comes back to research. Take the time to really learn about your plants.
Yeah, research is key.
It's amazing how a little knowledge can prevent those oops moments.
For sure. Okay, I'm feeling way more confident about my bush and hedge trimming now.
Mm-hmm.
But before we wrap up, what's one key takeaway from this future landscaping advice you think our listeners should really hold on to?
You know, if we take a step back and look at the bigger picture,
Okay.
I think the biggest takeaway is to approach your garden with respect and willingness to learn.
That's a good one.
Don't just see your bushes and hedges as things to be hacked. See them as living, breathing organisms that need care and attention.
I love that. It's not just about the aesthetics, it's about fostering a healthy ecosystem in our yards.
Exactly.
Speaking of fostering a healthy ecosystem, I remember the source material ends with a really thought-provoking question.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It asks how understanding those plant-specific needs can not only improve our trimming, but also the overall health and beauty of our landscapes.
That is such a great question.
It really is. And honestly, I think it goes beyond gardening, you know?
What do you mean?
It's a reminder to approach everything in life with curiosity and a desire to really understand things.
I love that.
But I think that's a conversation for another deep dive.
Indeed. But for now, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about as they head out to trim those hedges and bushes.
Absolutely. Remember, folks, you now have the knowledge and the tools to transform your landscapes.
Into masterpieces.
But more importantly, you've got a deeper understanding of the needs of your plants. That's the foundation of a truly thriving garden. Happy gardening, everyone.
You know, it's funny
Yes.
how something as simple as bush and hedge trimming can lead to such deep thoughts.
I know, right? We started talking about tools and techniques.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about, like, respecting nature and
Ecosystems.
approaching life with curiosity. It's amazing where a deep dive can take you.
Absolutely. And speaking of journeys, I think it's time to give our listeners that final thought-provoking question from the source material.
Yeah, let's do it. It's a question that I've been thinking about a lot.
Me too.
How can we use our understanding of plant-specific needs to create beautiful landscapes, but also nurture healthier ecosystems in our yards?
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like we need to think beyond just making things look pretty.
It's about creating a whole community of plants and creatures.
And that's what I love about gardening.
What's that?
It's a constant learning process.
It is.
You experiment, you collaborate with nature.
It's a partnership.
We're not just shaping plants, we're shaping ecosystems.
Beautifully said. I think that's a perfect way to wrap things up.
I think so too. Go out there and create those thriving ecosystems, everyone.
Happy gardening.
Happy gardening.